Imagine being told you're not allowed to see your own grandkids, while standing in the doorway of the house I bought for my son and his wife. That's exactly what happened to me, and what came next shocked even me. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Margaret. I'm 62, and I worked as a nurse for most of my life. I raised my son, Jason, mostly on my own after his father passed away early. I worked double shifts, saved every spare dollar, and did everything I could to give him a stable life. When Jason married Lily, I welcomed her with open arms. I tried to treat her like the daughter I never had. I helped them whenever they needed it. When they struggled to find a place they could afford, I bought a house for them so the kids would have space to grow. When their old car kept breaking down, I bought them a reliable one so Jason could get to work safely. I never saw any of this as debt. I did it because I loved my family. My biggest joy in life has always been my two grandkids, Ava and Leo. Ava is 6, full of energy and always asking questions. Leo is 4, sweet and quiet, always holding a toy car in his hand. I babysat them often, sometimes for entire weekends. I cooked for them, read bedtime stories, and kept little blankets at my place so they always felt at home with me. They would run into my arms the moment they saw me. Those moments made everything worth it. But over time, something in the house started to feel different. Lily's smile started to fade whenever I walked in. She stopped talking to me kindly and started answering with short, sharp words. She acted like my presence annoyed her. I brushed it off at first, thinking she was tired or stressed. I offered to help with chores, but she said she didn't need me hovering. I tried asking if everything was okay, but she always said she was fine, even though her tone made it clear she didn't want me there. It wasn't just her mood. She started watching me closely when I played with the kids, almost as if she expected me to do something wrong. When I gave the kids small gifts like coloring books or snacks, she would say things like, "They don't need that," or, "You always overdo it." Jason didn't say much. He kept his head down and avoided conflict, pretending he didn't notice the tension. But I noticed. I felt it every time I walked through that door. I didn't want to believe something was changing. I loved them, and I kept telling myself it was just a phase, that Lily would warm up again. I had no idea that the cracks I saw were only the beginning of something much bigger, something that would turn my whole world upside down. I started noticing small changes from Lily before I ever understood what they meant. It began with little things, like her tone when I walked into the room. She no longer greeted me with warmth. Instead, she gave a short nod or didn't look up at all. I tried not to take it personally, but the feeling grew stronger every time I visited. It was as if my presence made her tense, even though I did nothing but try to help. When I offered to take Ava and Leo to the park, Lily would say, "I already have plans," even when she clearly didn't. If I picked up toys or folded laundry, she would quickly stop me and say, "I can handle it." It wasn't a polite refusal, her voice carried irritation, like I was crossing a line just by being helpful. She acted like every move I made was too much, as if I was stepping into a space where I didn't belong. The worst part was when she began questioning my way of doing things with the kids. If I held Leo when he was upset, she would say, "You're spoiling him." If Ava asked me to read a story and I agreed, Lily would comment, "She needs to learn patience." It didn't matter what I did, there was always something wrong with it. I had raised a child alone and cared for countless patients in my career, yet she made me feel like I had no sense at all. I tried to talk to Jason about it, gently, because I didn't want to cause trouble in their home. But he always brushed it off and said Lily was stressed or tired. He told me to not take things to heart. I wanted to believe him, but the way Lily's eyes hardened every time she looked at me told a different story. Still, I didn't want to pressure him, so I stayed quiet for a while. But things kept getting worse. One afternoon, the kids ran to me with excitement when I arrived, and before I could even bend down to hug them, Lily stepped between us and said, "Not now, they need to finish something." The way she said it made the children stop in their tracks. I felt a sting in my chest, deep and sharp. I wasn't trying to take over anything, I just loved them. Yet Lily acted like I was interrupting something important by simply showing affection. Jason stood nearby and didn't say a word. He didn't put a hand on my shoulder or tell Lily she was being unfair. He stayed quiet, eyes fixed on the floor, letting it happen. That silence hurt more than anything Lily said. It felt like he was slipping further away from me, choosing what he thought was peace, even if it meant letting me be treated like an outsider. For the first time, I felt something shift inside me, a small, heavy ache that came from realizing I was no longer welcome in a place I helped them build. It was the first real crack in the family I had held together for so long, and it scared me more than I wanted to admit. The change in Lily's behavior became clearer the day she turned my own kindness into a weapon against me. I had stopped by to drop off a few groceries because Jason had mentioned they were trying to save money that month. I set the bags on the counter, thinking nothing of it, when Lily looked at them with a strange expression. She crossed her arms and said, "You don't have to act like you're in charge of this house." Her words caught me off guard. I calmly told her I was only trying to help, but she didn't soften. Instead, she took a step closer and said, "You only do these things because you think buying the house and car gives you some kind of control over us." I had never heard anything like that from her before. The house and the car were gifts, things I gave out of love, not obligation. I never once asked them to pay me back. I never mentioned ownership or reminded them of what I had done. Hearing her twist it into something ugly made my stomach tighten. I told her she was misunderstanding me, but she shook her head and said, "No, I'm not. You always keep score. Every little thing, you remember it." Her voice was sharp and firm, as if she believed every word. I stood there quietly, trying to steady my breath. I didn't understand why she was suddenly acting like I had been holding things over their heads. I had always tried to give them space, always tried to respect their home. Jason walked into the kitchen while we stood there. He looked tired and uncomfortable, but before he could say anything, Lily continued speaking. "I'm tired of feeling like we owe you something. I'm tired of you showing up whenever you feel like it." She glanced at the groceries. "This is just another reminder." Jason didn't defend me. He only sighed and rubbed his forehead, whispering something about not wanting an argument. He didn't look at me, which made the whole moment feel worse. I felt like I was standing alone in a place I had helped them build. Later that afternoon, when the kids came running to me with their usual excitement, Lily stepped in again. This time, she didn't even try to hide her tone. "They need to stop getting used to you doing everything for them. It's not healthy," she said loudly enough for Jason to hear. I kept my voice steady when I told her I never tried to replace her role. But Lily wasn't finished. She looked at me with a cold smirk and said something I'll never forget, "You act like this is your second chance at having a family. It's sad, honestly, living through other people's lives." Her words hit me like a heavy blow. I had spent years caring for them, supporting them, loving them with every part of my heart. And now she was reducing all of it to something pitiful. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply stood there, steady but hurting, realizing that something deeper was happening, something that went far beyond simple tension or misunderstandings. It was the first moment I understood that Lily didn't just dislike me. She resented me. And for the first time, I felt a quiet fear forming inside me that things were going to get much worse. I went over one afternoon with a small bag of toys I had picked up for Ava and Leo. Nothing expensive, just a few things I knew would make them smile. I was hoping a simple gesture might soften the tension that had been growing. I walked up the steps, took a breath, and knocked on the door like I always did. Instead of the kids running to greet me, the door opened just a few inches, and Lily stood there. She didn't smile. She didn't even pretend to be polite. She looked straight at me with a cold face I had never seen before. Before I could say a word, she pushed the door open wider, stepped into the doorway, and said, "Don't come in." I froze for a second, thinking I had heard her wrong. I held up the bag of toys gently and said I had just brought something for the kids. She didn't even look at it. "You're not welcome here anymore," she said, her voice flat and sharp. My heart dropped. I tried to ask what she meant, thinking maybe she just needed space or time to calm down. But she didn't give me a chance. "And from now on," she added, "you're not seeing the kids." The words hit me so hard I felt my knees weaken. I looked past her into the house, hoping to see my grandchildren, even for a second. But Lily blocked the doorway completely. I tried to speak, to understand what I had done that was so terrible, but she cut me off again. "This is our home," she said, "and we need boundaries. You don't get to just come here whenever you want." I wanted to say I always called first, that I always respected their space, but the words wouldn't come out. My throat tightened too much. Then I noticed Jason standing behind her. His arms were crossed, his eyes on the floor. He didn't step forward. He didn't tell Lily to stop. He didn't ask her to calm down. He didn't defend me at all. I whispered his name, hoping he would look at me. When he finally did, it was only for a second. He looked guilty, but not enough to do anything about it. He stayed behind Lily like a shadow, letting her speak for both of them. The silence from my own son hurt more than Lily's words. I lowered the bag of toys slowly. I didn't want to argue in front of the children, even if I couldn't see them. I didn't want to make a scene. I just wanted to understand why the people I had loved and helped for so many years were now shutting me out like I was nothing to them. I took a small step back because I felt my eyes filling with tears. I didn't want to cry in front of them, but the pain was too strong. My voice trembled when I told them I never meant harm. Lily didn't respond. Jason didn't move. I turned and walked down the steps, feeling like the air had been knocked out of me. By the time I reached my car, the tears were already falling. I sat there gripping the steering wheel, humiliated and heartbroken, realizing I had just lost access to the two little souls who meant everything to me. And the people who took them away were the very same people I had spent my life supporting. After that day at their doorstep, I felt something inside me collapse. It was as if a part of my heart had been torn out and there was nothing I could do to put it back. I spent the next few days in my house, barely speaking to anyone. I kept replaying Lily's words in my head, and worse, Jason's silence. The quiet in my home felt heavier than ever. I didn't turn on the TV or radio. I didn't cook real meals. I moved from one room to another without purpose, feeling lost. The hardest part was waking up each morning and remembering that I wouldn't see Ava and Leo. I missed their voices, their laughter, the way they hugged me without holding back. I missed the small moments, tying shoes, wiping faces, pouring juice. It felt like I was grieving something that was still alive but completely out of reach. Every corner of my house reminded me of them, and each reminder brought fresh pain. A few days later, my friend Laura came to check on me. She has known me for years and didn't need me to explain anything. She took one look at me and sat down beside me with quiet concern. I told her everything, every word Lily said, every moment Jason looked away. I didn't cry while speaking. I think I had run out of tears by then. But I could hear the hurt in my own voice. Laura listened closely. When I finished, she didn't try to comfort me with empty phrases. Instead, she asked me something that made me sit up straighter. "Margaret, whose name is on the house?" I blinked, confused for a moment. I told her I bought it for them, that it was meant to be their family home. She shook her head gently and asked again, "No, I mean legally, whose name is on the papers?" The question stayed in the room like a weight. I got up and pulled out the folder where I kept important documents. My hands trembled a little as I opened it. The house deed was right there. I looked at the top, at the printed name. It was mine. Only mine. Laura waited, watching my expression. I flipped through other documents, the loan I paid off, the registration for the car, the insurance. Everything was under my name. For a long moment, I just stared at the papers. Not because I wanted control, but because I suddenly remembered that I had given them everything. I had opened every door for them. And they had shut the most important one in my face. A small, steady feeling started forming inside me. It wasn't anger. It wasn't revenge. It was something quieter, something stronger. I realized I didn't have to stay broken. I didn't have to sit in silence while they treated me like I didn't matter. I had more power than I thought. More choices. More voice. And for the first time since Lily slammed that door, I felt myself standing up on the inside. A week after discovering the papers, I decided I couldn't stay quiet any longer. I wasn't going to beg or apologize for something I hadn't done. I needed to go back to the house, not to confront them with anger, but to finally set the record straight and reclaim what was mine. I drove there slowly, taking deep breaths. I held the house keys and the car documents in my bag, calm but firm. When I arrived, I walked up to the door without knocking. Lily opened it before I could even speak. She looked surprised to see me. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice sharp. "I came to talk," I said evenly. "It's time we have a serious conversation." Jason came out from the kitchen, looking tense, and I could see Lily quickly putting herself between us. I didn't flinch. I met Jason's eyes for a moment and then looked at Lily. "I've been quiet for too long," I said. "I gave you everything I could, this house, the car, anything to make life easier. I never asked for anything back. But since I've been banned from seeing Ava and Leo, I can no longer finance your home or your car." Lily's face turned red, her hands trembling slightly. "You're being selfish," she shouted. "How dare you say that? After everything I've done, you think you can punish us?" I stayed calm. My voice was steady. "You call it punishment, but it's not. It's the natural result of shutting me out of my grandchildren's lives. I will not continue to give to people who don't respect me or my love for their children." Jason shifted his weight uncomfortably. I could see the conflict on his face, but he stayed silent. He had never stood up for me before, and now I didn't need him to. I was standing for myself. "You're cruel," Lily spat, stepping closer. "This is exactly why no one trusts you. You only think about yourself." I didn't take a step back. I shook my head gently. "No, Lily. I've only ever thought about the family. I thought love meant giving, even when it wasn't easy. But I've learned that love without respect isn't love at all. You've misused my kindness, and I will not allow it anymore." For the first time, I felt a strange mix of relief and power. I wasn't angry in the way I used to imagine. I was firm. Clear. I knew I was doing what was right for myself. Lily glared, breathing heavily, while Jason looked down at his feet. They didn't respond for a long moment. I simply stood there, calm and steady, letting my words sink in. I realized then that this was the turning point. I was no longer the quiet, giving mother who let her heart be walked over. I had taken control of the situation, not with yelling or threats, but with clarity and truth. And for the first time in months, I felt a weight lift off my chest. I was standing for myself, finally, and nothing they said could take that away. The next day, I decided it was time to take the final step. I couldn't stay silent while my generosity was being used against me. I drafted a formal notice, clearly stating that the house I had bought for Jason and Lily legally belonged to me and that they had 30 days to vacate. I delivered it to the house personally, making sure they understood that this was not negotiable. When Jason read it, I saw panic spread across his face. He ran his hands through his hair, muttering that there was no way he could afford a new place on his salary. I felt a pang of sympathy, but it was mixed with the hurt I had carried for months. He had watched me be treated like an outsider in my own family and never stood up for me. Now, the situation had shifted. Lily's reaction was immediate and loud. She shouted, calling me cruel and selfish, accusing me of destroying their family. Her words hit me, but they didn't shake me. I had already felt the sting of betrayal too many times to back down now. I didn't respond with anger. I didn't yell or plead. I stood calmly, letting her frustration hang in the air. "You don't understand," she screamed. You're tearing everything apart. How can you do this to us? You're ruining your grandchildren's home. I looked at her steadily. Lily, I've already been torn away from seeing Ava and Leo. I've been pushed out, ignored, and disrespected. I can no longer give a home to people who refuse to respect me. This house is mine, and you have 30 days to leave. Jason tried to speak, stammering about rent and moving costs. I listened, but I didn't waver. He avoided my gaze, probably realizing that his inaction had contributed to this moment. For too long, I had been silent while my love and support were dismissed. Now, I was finally taking control of something that was rightfully mine. Lily's voice rose even higher, accusations flying in every direction. She said I was heartless, that I was selfish, that I didn't care about the children. I didn't argue. I didn't try to justify myself. Her anger wasn't going to make me shrink. The truth was clear, I had given everything to help them, and now they were facing the consequences of their own actions. I could feel the shift inside me. I had been pushed, ignored, and hurt for too long. I realized I could no longer tolerate being disrespected. This wasn't revenge for revenge's sake. It was a boundary I had finally drawn, a limit to how far I would let others take advantage of my love. I left the house that day knowing the weight of months of hurt had been lifted. They were going to move, and there was nothing I could do to stop them. For the first time, I felt a quiet satisfaction in standing firm, in protecting myself, and in taking back what I had always owned. After dealing with the house, I realized I needed to address the car. It wasn't about the money, it was about principle. I had bought that car to make Jason's life easier, to help him provide for the kids. Now, after months of being shut out and disrespected, it was time to reclaim it. I drove to their place with the spare key in my hand. I didn't knock. I didn't shout. I simply walked to the driveway where the car sat, shining in the sun, a reminder of all I had given them. Jason and Lily came outside, surprised to see me. Lily's mouth opened, and words tumbled out before she could stop herself, but I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I unlocked the door, slid in, and started the engine. Jason stepped forward, panic on his face. "Margaret, what are you doing?" he asked, his voice high and shaky. I looked at him calmly. "I'm taking back what is mine. This car belongs to me. Since I've been cut out of my grandchildren's lives, I will no longer provide for yours." Lily screamed, trying to grab the door, but I gently pushed it closed and put the car in gear. Jason and Lily could only stand there, helpless, watching me pull away. I didn't speed off. I drove slowly, not out of fear, but to make the moment last a little longer, a quiet statement of control and clarity. As I drove down the street, I thought about the symbolism of it all. They had taken away my ability to be with Ava and Leo, shutting me out of the lives I loved most. I had been left standing outside, powerless, while my own family ignored me. Now, I was taking something they had come to rely on, something that represented the comfort and ease I had always provided. It wasn't revenge and anger, it was reclaiming respect and fairness. The weight of months of hurt seemed to lift a little with each turn of the wheel. For the first time in a long while, I felt a small surge of power, not cruelly, but justly. I had been pushed, ignored, and humiliated, and now I was finally taking action that was rightfully mine. I parked the car at my own house, feeling a quiet satisfaction as I stepped out. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Jason and Lily could see the message without me saying a word. I had given them everything I could, and when that trust was broken, I had the courage to act. I realized that standing up for myself didn't make me a villain. It made me a grandmother who refused to be mistreated. I had drawn the line. I had taken back control of what was mine, and in doing so, I felt a sense of calm I hadn't known in months. For the first time since Lily had banned me from my grandchildren, I felt strong, steady, and in charge of my own life. A few weeks later, I heard that Jason and Lily had finally moved into a small, cramped apartment. It wasn't fancy, and it wasn't the home I had bought for them. I felt a mixture of relief and quiet satisfaction knowing they were finally dealing with the consequences of their own choices. One afternoon, Jason called me. His voice was shaky, and I could hear him holding back tears. "Margaret. I'm sorry," he said. "I should have stood up for you. Lily, she's been impossible, and I didn't know what to do." I listened quietly, letting him speak. I could feel the years of pain and disappointment he had caused me, all coming out now in his apology. But I also heard him trying to shift the blame. He kept saying things like, "It's her fault, she pushed everything too far, and I couldn't stop her." I knew he was trying to make me forgive too quickly, to sweep everything under the rug without real change. I took a deep breath and spoke firmly. "Jason, I'm glad you're apologizing, but words aren't enough. I will never let anyone manipulate me again. I've been hurt, ignored, and humiliated for too long to pretend it didn't happen." There was a pause on the line. I continued, steady but calm. "I love Ava and Leo more than anything in this world. But I cannot allow anyone to control who I see or how I care for them. If you truly want me to be part of their lives again, you need to protect them from toxic behavior first. You need to show that you can stand up for them, and for me, against anyone who tries to hurt us." I could hear him swallowing hard. I understand," he whispered. "I'm not saying this to punish you," I told him. "I'm saying it because I have to protect myself and the kids. I will rebuild my relationship with them, but it will only happen if I can trust that they're safe and loved, and that I'm respected." For the first time, I felt a sense of power that had nothing to do with money or possessions. I wasn't angry. I wasn't plotting revenge. I was setting boundaries for the first time in my life, and it felt good. I was no longer the grandmother who silently endured disrespect or ignored hurt. I was strong, clear, and firm about what I would and would not accept. Jason stayed on the phone, listening and nodding even though I couldn't see him. I could hear the seriousness in his tone, the weight of responsibility finally settling on his shoulders. I ended the call with one last thing: I love my grandkids. I always will. But from now on, respect and protection are not optional. That's the only way we move forward. After I hung up, I sat quietly, feeling lighter than I had in months. For the first time, I felt like I had finally taken control, not with anger or punishment, but with clear boundaries, self-respect, and love that could no longer be used against me. Months passed, and life slowly began to change. Jason finally left Lily after realizing that her harshness and controlling behavior wasn't going to stop. She continued treating everyone with anger and disrespect, and it became clear that he could no longer stay in that toxic environment. I didn't get involved. I let him make his own choices, but I watched from a distance, ready to step back in when the time was right. One afternoon, Jason arrived at my door, holding Ava and Leo's hands. The kids ran into my arms immediately, laughing and hugging me tightly. I felt a rush of emotion, a mix of relief, love, and quiet triumph. Jason followed slowly, his eyes downcast at first. Then he looked up at me, his voice trembling. "Margaret. I'm so sorry," he said. "I should have stood up for you sooner. I see now how wrong I was, and I want to make things right." I listened carefully, noting the sincerity in his voice. This wasn't a quick, convenient apology. I could feel the weight of his regret, the acknowledgement of the pain caused by Lily's actions and his own silence. It wasn't about control or guilt, it was about understanding and taking responsibility. I forgave him, but I didn't forget. Forgiveness doesn't mean erasing what happened. I let him know that while I loved him and the kids, I would not allow disrespect or manipulation again. My boundaries had been set, and I intended to keep them. Over the next few weeks, I began rebuilding my bond with Ava and Leo. We spent time together, laughing, reading, cooking, and just enjoying simple moments. The relationship was stronger and healthier than before because I was no longer bending to anyone else's rules. Everything we did was on my terms, based on love and respect rather than obligation or fear of conflict. I realized something very important during this time: kindness without boundaries invites betrayal. For years, I had given everything I could without stopping to protect myself, and it had allowed others to take advantage of my love. But taking back the house, the car, and finally reclaiming my voice wasn't about revenge, it was about justice. I had simply restored balance and reclaimed what was mine to protect the family I truly cared about. Ava and Leo thrived in the environment we created together. They felt safe, loved, and free to be themselves, and I felt the same way. I no longer feared being shut out or disrespected. I had learned that love alone isn't enough, you must also protect yourself and your boundaries. Sitting with them one evening as they laughed and played, I smiled quietly. The hurt and betrayal I had endured had not broken me. Instead, it had taught me the value of strength, patience, and self-respect. I had taken back what I built, and in doing so, I had created a family life filled with fairness, love, and dignity. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly at peace. I had justice, I had my grandchildren, and I had the knowledge that love combined with boundaries is a power no one can take from you.